Bonyeza *811*96.
Mwanamtu jitume mwenyewe.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza *811*963 hash, *811*963 hash.
Fanya hivi, wewe teremuka tu chini. Hata watu wanangojea, unasema unione. Si ninakuona ndio huyu kucha. Kucha ninakuona.
Yoi.
Nimekuita mara ngapi Kate? This is the Nissan Note.
Hii ndio motoka.
Not that this is the Nissan Note we are giving out.
Na ni rahisi sana kuwekelea bid. Unaenda kwenye lipa na M-Pesa. Unaweka paybill number 4032353. Kisha unakelea account number ya Nissan Note ni Note, N-O-T-E. Namba ambayo unapenda, labda unapenda 100, labda unapenda 200. Wekelea Note 100, Note 200. Alafu tutakuitisha shilingi 40 peke yake, 40 bob only. Weka pin yako, utakuwa umekelea bid ya hii Nissan Note. Inakungoja wewe mahali popote ulipo. Mimi na mtumishi tutakupea.
Well, a very good evening to you. We sure hope that you are keeping well this 18th day of March 2021, a day when Tanzania has been mourning the loss of its 5th president, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli. During this broadcast, we shall be bringing you the details of that particular death of Dr. Magufuli, as well as just his leadership style and how Tanzania is going to progress moving forward. Already there has been a new normal in Tanzania with the vice president just being seen there wearing a mask. We shall be bringing you also the details on that. But first, here are the highlights.
In the passing on of President Magufuli, I have lost a friend, a colleague, and a visionary ally, whom I worked closely, particularly on our commitment to forge lasting bonds between Kenya and Tanzania.
Kenyan and EAC flags to fly at half-mast for the next 7 days in honor of the late Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli. Tanzanian Vice President Samia Suluhu set to become country's first female president following the death of John Pombe Magufuli. Vote tallying underway in the Machakos senatorial by-elections. And the National Assembly calls on the National Treasury to settle all pending bills within the next 6 months.
Thank you for choosing Channel 1 Business Insight. My name is Betty Kiptum and Lensa Odingo is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Now, Kenya will observe a 7 days period of mourning beginning Thursday in honor of the late Tanzania President John Pombe Magufuli. While condoning the people of Tanzania, President Uhuru Kenyatta directed that the Kenyan flag and the East Africa Community flag to be flown at half-mast until the late Tanzania leader remains are interred. President Kenyatta describing Magufuli as an illustrious leader whose vision, passion and immense leadership propelled the nation of Tanzania forward.
President Kenyatta said he had learned with profound sorrow and immense sadness of the untimely passing of President John Pombe Magufuli, President of the United Republic of Tanzania.
I convey our sincere condolences to the First Lady of Tanzania, Her Excellency Janet Magufuli, their children, the entire Magufuli family, and indeed affirm our deep solidarity with the government and people of Tanzania.
The head of state said Tanzania remains in our thoughts and prayers, and that Africa and the world has indeed lost an illustrious leader whose vision, passion and immense leadership moved the nation of Tanzania forward and also steered the East African community.
I have lost a friend, a colleague, and a visionary ally whom I worked closely, particularly on our commitment to forge lasting bonds between Kenya and Tanzania.
President Kenyatta said the late President Magufuli was a champion of Pan-Africanism, and with the high esteem in which the people of Kenya hold President John Pombe Magufuli, the Republic of Kenya was observing a period of 7 days of national mourning.
East African community and the flag of the Republic of Kenya shall be flown at half-mast at all public buildings and public grounds and wherever else throughout the entire territory of the Republic of Kenya and at all Kenya's diplomatic missions abroad from today, Thursday, the 18th of March, 2021, until sunset on the day of the funeral.
The Embassy of Tanzania in Kenya has opened a condolence book with the burial date expected to be announced tomorrow.
Tunawashukuru wale wote waliokuja kutupa pole. Maandalizi ya msiba yanaendelea ambapo tunategemea kesho wataendelea na taratibu za kufanya maandalizi. Ratiba kamili ya lini tutafanya maziko itatangazwa. Kwa hichi kipindi cha kuanzia leo mpaka kesho tunaendelea kuwa na subira wakati taratibu nyingine za serikali zikiendelea.
Ruth Wamboi for Channel 1 News.
Now, Tanzania is mourning the death of President John Joseph Pombe Magufuli. Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan announced the demise of Magufuli on Wednesday night, saying he succumbed while receiving treatment for a heart condition at Mzena Hospital in Dar es Salaam. He passed on at the age of 61 and is survived by his wife Janet Magufuli and children.
The curtains came down on the life of Tanzanian President John Joseph Pombe Magufuli on Wednesday 6 p.m. at Mzena Hospital in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. According to Tanzanian Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan, who announced his demise in a televised address, Magufuli has been ailing since the 6th of March this month and was admitted to the facility after suffering from a heart failure.
Mheshimiwa Rais Magufuli alilazwa tarehe 6 Machi mwaka huu katika taasisi ya moyo ya Jakaya Kikwete kwa tatizo la mfumo wa umeme. Tatizo la moyo la mfumo wa umeme ambalo kitaalamu linajulikana kama chronic atrial fibrillation, ambalo alikuwa nalo kwa zaidi ya miaka 10.
Magufuli had not been seen in public since the end of February, and top government officials had denied he was ill, even as rumors circulated online that he was seriously sick and possibly incapacitated. Although the vice president said the cause of Magufuli's death was heart failure, opposition politicians had earlier alleged he had contracted COVID-19. Magufuli was the 5th president of Tanzania and was serving his second term after re-election last year. Born on 29 October 1959, John Joseph Pombe Magufuli was a scholar turned politician.
Kama atachaguliwa Mwinyi, kama atachaguliwa
He earned his Bachelor of Science in Education degree majoring in chemistry and mathematics from the University of Dar es Salaam in 1988. and later earned his master's and doctorate degrees in chemistry from the same university in 1994 and 2009 respectively. In 2019, he was awarded an honorary doctorate by the University of Dodoma for improving the economy of the country. Magufuli delved into politics after a short period as a teacher at the Sengerema Secondary School between 1982 and 1983. He taught chemistry and mathematics. He was first elected as Member of Parliament in 1995. He served in the cabinet of Tanzania as Deputy Minister of Works from 1995 to 2000, Minister of Works from 2000 to 2005, Minister of Lands and Human Settlement from 2006 to 2008, Minister of Livestock and Fisheries from 2008 to 2010, and as Minister of Works for a second time from 2010 to 2015. On 12th July 2015, Magufuli was nominated as CCM's presidential candidate for the 2015 election and went on to win the poll on 29 October after garnering 58% of the vote. He was sworn in on 5th November 2015 alongside Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan, who was his running mate.
Naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania na kuitumikia kwa moyo wangu wote.
Mimi Samia Suluhu Hassan naapa kwamba katika kutekeleza madaraka niliyopewa kwa mujibu wa katiba ya Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania.
The duo was re-elected for a second term on 28 October 2020. Timothy Kipnusu, Channel 1 News.
Now, the late John Pombe Magufuli rode to the presidency of Tanzania in 2015, promising a corrupt-free nation. His style of leadership, moving from the boardroom to real service delivery, where he personally made impromptu tours to government projects, at times catching many unawares. The bulldozer of Tanzania, as he was known, could not take flimsy excuses, even firing public officers on the spot. Our reporter Ben Chumba highlights the leadership style of the late controversial 5th president of Tanzania.
Amekwisha kula kiapo. Shangwe, makofi na vigelegele.
In his first days in office, Magufuli was dubbed the Thomas Sankara of Tanzania, creating a wave of supporters both from within and without. His first move shocking many when he reduced his salary from $15,000 to $4,000 per month, and also reduced his cabinet size from 30 ministries to 19 to cut cost.
Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nimewaahidi wananchi na nataka nirejee ahadi yangu kwao mbele ya bunge hili tukufu kwamba nitapambana na rushwa na ufisadi bila kigugumizi na bila haya yoyote. Dawa ya jipu ni kulitumbua, na mimi nimejipa kazi ya kuwa mtumbua jipu.
And 3 days into his term, Magufuli announced a ban on all foreign travel by government officials and instead instructed them to make regular visits to rural areas to learn and help solve daily problems facing Tanzanians. And to his word, the farthest he traveled in as president was an African Union meeting in Addis Ababa. Magufuli will be remembered for declaring that there will be no more workshops and seminars in expensive hotels by government officials when there were so many ministry boardrooms available, and it is said a year into his presidency, Tanzania saved $430 million.
Siku hizi kwenye mawizara wakitaka kukutana mahali lazima watafute hoteli, wakati wizarani kuna ukumbi. Wangeweza hata wakakutania kwenye miti wakazungumza wale wanayotaka kuyazungumza. Tanzania ni tajiri. Tanzania ina kila kitu. Tukisimama imara kwa pamoja na tukamtanguliza Mungu mbele, tutafanikiwa.
He got the attention of many when he declared that there will be no celebration of Independence Day in Tanzania on December 9th because it will be shameful to spend huge sums of money in the event when people were dying of cholera.
Instead, the day was set as a day of cleanness and money would go towards improving hospitals and sanitization in Tanzania. After his first official visit to Muhimbili National Hospital in Tanzania, Magufuli saw the horrible state that the hospital was in and ordered over 200 million shillings marked for parliamentary parties to be used to pay for beds for people lying on the floor and sharing beds. He also cut his inauguration party budget from $1,000 to $7,000 and sent the extra money to the hospital. Magufuli, who acquired the nickname the bulldozer for getting things done, will also be remembered for his no-nonsense approach and results-driven leadership. At one time, he sacked his assistant minister who was unable to read a oath of office during swearing-in ceremony.
Mimi Francis Kumba Ndulane naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Muungano ya Tanzania na kwamba
paka wewe uliyeshindwa kuapa, na nafikiri hii nafasi tutamteua mtu mwingine anayeweza kuapa vizuri.
However, once praised for his no-nonsense approach, Magufuli went to become a controversial, many accusing him of tyranny and silencing dissent. According to human rights organization, Tanzanian democracy slowly turned into a dictatorship as human rights deteriorated, even forcing the European Union to recall its ambassador from the country. Magufuli's government was accused of repressing opposition to his leadership, including laws restricting opposition rallies. Magufuli made it clear that he does not want a political movement to interfere with his governance. Tanzanian police arrested a number of opposition leaders and were prosecuted over protest. Tanzanian main opposition leader Tundu Lissu went in exile in Europe following an intense presidential election after allegedly claiming to have received death threats. Magufuli's government was also accused of threatening to shut radio and television stations, and people in Tanzania were arrested for cyberbullying the president. Perhaps his lowest moment in the presidency was his response to the coronavirus pandemic, when he shocked the rest of the world when he announced that the disease had been defeated by national prayer and called for a public celebration in Tanzania. Magufuli even went to the extent of instructing security forces to blindly test coronavirus test kits for quality on goats, papaya, sheep and motor oil, disputing the effectiveness of face masks and testing.
Ya papai tukaipa jina Elizabeth Anne, miaka 26, female. Papai lile lilikuwa positive kwamba lina corona.
Decision by his administration not to publish data on coronavirus since late April 2020 prompted the World Health Organization (WHO) to query Tanzania's approach to COVID-19, and even his illness shrouded in mystery with nation after having disappeared from the public limelight mid-February. Ben Chuba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
Now, Samia Hassan Suluhu is set to become Tanzania's first female president following the death of John Pombe Magufuli on Wednesday night. Suluhu, who is the first female vice president of the East African nation, was re-elected in 2020 alongside the late Magufuli, having served in the same capacity during his first reign.
Tanzania is mourning a sitting president for the first time in its history following the death of President John Magufuli on Wednesday evening. According to the Tanzanian constitution, where the office of president becomes vacant by reason of death, then the vice president shall be sworn in and become the president for the unexpired period of the term of 5 years. The same may also happen if a vacancy occurs due to resignation, loss of electoral qualifications, or inability to perform his functions due to physical infirmity or failure to discharge the duties and functions of the office of president. After taking the oath of office, she will consult with her political party Chama cha Mapinduzi for a vice president. Suluhu will then propose the name of the person who shall be vice president. According to the constitution, since she hails from Zanzibar, her deputy is required to come from the mainland. The nominee will be confirmed by parliament by a minimum of 50% of all members of parliament. Should Suluhu stay as president for 3 years or more, the law states that she will be allowed to run for the presidency. Samia Suluhu became Tanzania's first female vice president following the 2015 general election and was elected on a Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM, the most dominant and the second longest ruling party in Africa. Born on January 27, 1960, Suluhu was the MP for Makunduchi constituency from 2010 to 2015 and has been Minister of State in the Vice President's Office for Union Affairs since 2010. Tanzania opposition leader Tundu Lissu has said he is ready to return to Tanzania after going into exile in Belgium, where he sought asylum. Lissu left Tanzania after he lost to Magufuli in the hotly contested general election last year, claiming his life was in danger. Lissu said it is a new beginning in matters leadership in Tanzania. Suluhu is married to Hafidh Amir, a retired agriculture officer, and together they have 3 sons and a daughter. Their daughter, Mwanu Hafidh Amir, is a member of the Zanzibar House of Representatives. Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
Well, there will be some announcements made tomorrow at about 10 a.m. about the transition process for the swearing in of Samia Suluhu as president. You might want to stay tuned to catch those particular proceedings. We move on now. The late Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli was known for his ability to motivate millions with his words and quotes. Magufuli, who died Wednesday, leaves behind inspiring words of wisdom, unity, peace and humor. The late, nicknamed Bulldozer, in 2019 made fun of COVID-19 testing facilities. At one time, he claimed even Popo had tested positive for the virus.
Tulishinda mwaka jana, tutashinda mwaka huu, tutashinda miaka yote, kwa sababu kamwe Mungu hajaweza kuliacha taifa hili. Tumeshinda mwaka jana mpaka tukaingia kwenye uchumi wa kati na korona ipo. Uchumi ukaendelea kupanda na korona ipo. Miradi ikaendelea kutekelezwa, wala hatukuweka lockdown. Hata sasa hatutaweka lockdown kwa sababu tunajua Mungu yupo siku zote.
Tunafahamu maeneo mengi katika Afrika na katika dunia yatapata shida ya chakula. Ni kwa sababu waliji lockdown wakati sisi tukiwa tunashughulika kulima. Sasa tutunze vyakula vyetu. Na kama tunaamua kuuza, tuuze kwa bei ya juu sana. Tulichukua sample za mbuzi, tukachukua sample za kondoo, tukachukua sample za papai, tukachukua sample za oili ya gari na sample za vitu vingine mbalimbali, tukavipeleka pale kwenye maabara bila wao kujua, na tukazipa majina. Sample ya oili kwa mfano iliyotoka kwa gari tulilipa jina ya Jabiri Hamza. Ya papai tukaipa jina Elizabeth Anne, miaka 26, female. Papai lile lilikuwa positive kwamba lina corona. Najua watu wataandika sana, lakini hili limenigusa kutoka moyoni. Nitatoa tausi 4. Watapelekwa Kenya kwa Mheshimiwa Kenyatta. Na nina uhakika baada ya miaka kadhaa watazaa. Watakapozaa wale wana atanirudishia. wale wengine watabaki kule. Ndani ya utawala wangu kama rais, hakuna mwenye mimba atakayerudi shuleni.
Ili kusudi mradi huu akaukague vizuri, atachukua hatua. Ndio maana nimeamua nisimame hapa, tunamaliza yote kwa pamoja. Kwa sababu ningepitiliza hili swala lisingeshughulikiwa. Zege hailali.
Sauti Soro, sijui sauti nani, anasema wao wakifunika wengine wanafunua. Tukifunika tunafungua. Wao they always hawazuiliwi kufanya kitu. Wakienda kwenye muziki, vyombo vikifungua, wao wanakuwa ndani. Wakiwazuia nini? Wao wako humu. Ni sauti ya Soro, sijui nani. Sauti nani? Sauti Soro. Tusiogope, siku moja tutakufa. Hata mimi nitakufa. Kutokana na alichokipanga Mungu, naweza nikafa kwa corona, naweza nikafa kwa nini. Na ndio maana mnaniona hata mimi sijavaa barakoa. Sio kwamba siogopi kufa.
Well, members of parliament on Thursday took a break from their normal business to pay tribute to the people of Tanzania following the death of their president, John Pombe Magufuli. The legislators mourned the late president as a leader who was focused, practical and always spoke his mind. Meanwhile, leaders across Africa have hailed the late Magufuli, who died on Wednesday night, as an African statesman whose contribution will not be forgotten.
Speaker of the National Assembly Justin Muturi led members in observing a moment of silence in honor of the late President John Joseph Pombe Magufuli. Majority Leader Amos Kimunya said Magufuli, who passed away on Wednesday night, will be best remembered for his aggressive war on graft in Tanzania.
John Pombe Magufuli, who, as members have said, perhaps will best be remembered on his stance in terms of the war on graft in Tanzania, and in terms of enhancing service delivery and ensuring that all his civil servants are accountable to the people.
Wakati huu katika nchi ya Tanzania ni pigo kubwa sana kwa nchi ile, na pia katika Afrika Mashariki, kwa sababu ya yale ambayo alikuwa amejitolea kuifanyia nchi yake, hasa sekta ya uchukuzi. Hiyo atakumbukwa kwa muda mrefu sana.
The legislators eulogized the late Magufuli as a leader who was focused, humble and a staunch Christian.
Mr. Speaker, we are mourning. Mr. Speaker, President Magufuli was a staunch practicing Catholic. He was a very humble president, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's our prayer that the Almighty God grant the people of Tanzania comfort at this difficult time.
Leaders in the region continue to condole with Tanzanians. President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, a strong advocate of a unified East African, eulogized Magufuli as a pragmatic leader who believed and worked for the economic empowerment of East Africans. ODM leader Raila Odinga mourned Magufuli, saying his family and that of the late Tanzanian president have been close friends for a long time. On his part, former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan eulogized Magufuli as a partner in democracy and a patriot who loved his country. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa expressed deep sadness, adding he had spoken to Tanzanian Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan to express condolences in his personal capacity and on behalf of all South Africans. In the Kenyan-Tanzanian one-stop border of Namanga, residents from both countries expressing shock at the demise of the leader.
Alikuwa ameiongoza nchi vizuri, amesababisha kuwa na maendeleo mengi, lakini tumesikitishwa na kifo chake cha ghafla. Lakini tunaiomba Mwenyezi Mungu aiweke roho yake mahali ambapo amechagulia mwenyewe.
We now take a quick short break, but when we come back, we shall be bringing you the latest on the Machakos senatorial by-election as well as the latest numbers of the COVID-19 pandemic locally. Do stay with us.
Fanya hivi, wewe teremuka tu chini. Hata watu wanangojea, unasema unione, si ninakuona ndio huyu kucha. Kucha ninakuona. Nimekuita mara ngapi Kate? This is the Nissan Note.
Hii ndio motoka.
Not that this is the Nissan Note we are giving out.
Na ni rahisi sana kuwekelea bid. Unaenda kwenye lipa na M-Pesa. Unaweka paybill number 4032353. Kisha unakelea account number ya Nissan Note ni Note, N-O-T-E. Namba ambayo unapenda, labda unapenda 100, labda unapenda 200. Wekelea Note 100, Note 200. Alafu tutakuitisha shilingi 40 peke yake, 40 bob only. Weka pin yako, utakuwa umekelea bid ya hii Nissan Note. Inakungoja wewe mahali popote ulipo. Mimi na mtumishi tutakupea.
Next on.
Here in my mind, I spend my life serving you as my duty. Now that I've seen this place, I never want to go back home.
Hizo haki za barabara ambazo Muislamu anafaa kuzingatia kila wakati anapokuwa barabarani. Na mojawapo ya haki hizi ni kuwa Muislamu anapaswa kuondoa udhia barabarani, kwa sababu ukiondoa udhia barabarani, insha Allah unajijengea nyumba yako katika pepo ya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Hivi sasa
Next on.
Pia za kuudhi ambazo hufanywa pia na baadhi yenu nyinyi wafanyikazi wa nyumbani.
Chau. Hizo ndo tabia zenye unafanyanga hapa kitchen mkiwa peke yako.
Urembo mama. Wanibipu.
Ubipi vipi?
Hivyo na kuinama wanipiga picha.
Kwa nini hizo?
Hivyo ulivyovaa nguo hiyo na wainama hapo wanipiga picha.
Na huo ni ungwana.
Matches don't come any bigger than the Emirates FA Cup quarter-finals, which will take center stage this weekend. While Manchester United have a mouth-watering trip to the King Power Stadium, where they will face Leicester City at 8 p.m. Live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. You are watching Business Insight on Channel 1. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has arrested 4 suspects linked to the irregular solar installation tender in public primary schools worth over 103 million shillings. Nofatos Nganga Munyo, former CEO, James Murithi, head of renewable energy, Joel Omusembe, head of procurement, and Simon Kirui, an economist, are expected to be arraigned in court on Friday. Now, women struggling with involuntary childlessness are often victimized and stigmatized and sometimes disinherited. They often have to live in solitude, with some still believing that carrying a curse, that they carry a curse and will bring them a bad luck. In part 2 of the special series, The Silent Pandemic, Safina Cheng Oma unpacks how this form of inhuman treatment infringes the rights of women who are involuntarily childless and how their participation in public life is limited.
The pain and agony childless women go through, especially in an African society where procreation is highly regarded, is immeasurable.
Hawa nasumbanga mimi, by the way, sina raha kwa hiyo boma, lakini hivi tu. Alafu hawa ameweka mimi sana kitu ananisumbua. Hawa ameweka mimi pale, si pale yangu, pale line ya mama mdogo.
Some use my childlessness to abuse me, saying that I should not discuss other people's children, not knowing I also desire to have my own. But God did give me.
Roslyn Orua is a women rights advocate and the executive director of the Rona Widows and Orphans Center. She tells me she has worn both the shoes of being a widow and being a woman without her own child, and knows where they pinch most.
I lost my first marriage at 28 because of infertility. My mother had to return dowry. I underwent a lot of surgery. I've almost lost my life at the surgical table, almost 3 or 4 times. For a period of 10 years in my 20s to 30s, I wondered how brutal my first marriage was because of master's infertility. I assume I had children. I don't think it would have gone the way it went.
After making a deliberate choice not to let circumstance define her, Roslyn decided to give vulnerable children a home, and today she calls herself a proud mother of 27.
When I discovered that you don't have to, not every woman is supposed to bear children through the child labor. You can labor differently, and so my story is one of those unique ones where I have healed from my pain and have decided to bear child labor in a different way. When you raise 27 children, you labor every day. You labor for food, you labor for resources, you labor for medical care.
In the African culture, when a couple lacks children, it is the woman who often bears the blame. Dr. Boniface Obai Kamau, a reproductive health expert at Ambira Sub-County Hospital, explains why men often shy away from the subject of infertility.
It's easier to investigate the male than the female, because there are many investigations to be done on the female, and there are many causes that will cause infertility in the female than in the male. Yes.
Why do you think men are shying away from coming for fertility checkups?
I think they fear discovering that they are not able to give pregnancy.
Matters in fertility are very private. They are known, but the individual stories are very painful. They are full of stigma, full of socio-cultural undertones, and a lot of unrecognition in the family structure, because a woman's worth in the African culture is measured by the number of children she births. So if you have no children, you are as much as worthless.
The Demographic and Health Surveys of 1994 to 2000 shows that 2.5% of women aged 25 to 49 years who have had sexual intercourse have never been pregnant, and 3.1% have never given birth. This is, however, not the real situation. With the stigma and the myths around infertility, very few couples end up seeking treatment, and as such, many cases go unreported. Stigma also encourages silence, leading to late diagnosis and sometimes lack of treatment.
Problem, couples keep on trying to get and blaming each other, and by the time they come to the hospital, they come when they are already approaching menopause, for example, the woman, and usually they come too late.
But for many women who have had the privilege of getting a timely diagnosis, treatment options are expensive.
They told me I conceived but I miscarried, and that I had a complication in my womb and needed corrective surgery, a surgery I could not afford until my husband died.
Some rogue religious leaders have also used the desperation of children to mint money out of their congregants.
You smear some oil on somebody and you tell her that the next day she will conceive. Maybe if it goes for a year and she doesn't conceive, then you are a fake pastor. So when we are doing these things as the people who are concerned, let us avoid such practices because they are not to the glory of God.
Dr. Kamau also decries the shortage of facilities and experts to conduct such fertility treatments.
We used to have very few doctors doing those procedures, and that was in Nairobi. But right now, we at least are able, mothers are able to access this service, or couples are able to access this service. Although in Siaya, we do not have.
Like where we are in Wagoma village here, I don't know whether there's a gyno in Bondo. I don't know whether this, even if you just have growth or ovarian cyst or matters to hormonal imbalance, will you even access medical care? You know, reproductive health issues are also very complicated. The spaces are also very unfriendly.
Another challenge is lack of awareness on alternative treatments for infertility. Jane, for instance, laughs at my mention of in vitro fertilization.
I have just heard people talking about it, and that sometimes a child can be carried in a different womb, or a man can feel labor pain. But it was just talk in passing.
These women may not have gone through the pangs of labor, but the stigma they have been through is enough emotional pain. Regardless, they opt to remain resilient, believing that having no child does not mean that you have no value. They believe that a woman should not be denied her rights just because she cannot bring forth life. Reporting for Channel 1 News from Wagoma Village in Bondo Sub-County of Siaya County, I am Safin Acheng Ouma.
Well, Safina Cheng Ouma there, bringing to 4 conversations often had in harsh tones. The third part of that series will be coming to you tomorrow during a news hour at 9 p.m. Do stay tuned for that. We now want to take you to Machakos County, where the tallying of the vote is ongoing for the senatorial by-election that has been happening today. Our reporter Kamche Menza has been on standby the whole day, just following up on those elections from just witnessing the low voter turnout during the day and now the vote tallying that is ongoing. Kamche Menza, what is the latest?
Well, good evening to you back in studio, Betty Kiptum. As you said, we are coming to you live from Machakos County, and where we are currently is Machakos Town. And basically, this room is where the tallying for the results of Machakos Town constituency is being done at the moment. Remember, the county has about 8 constituencies with a total of registered voters of 622,965. So basically what is currently happening is that all these 8 constituencies are consolidating the results from the different polling stations in all the different polling stations that have been voting, have been undertaking the exercise this whole day. Then they will relay the results to the county tallying center later in the night. But basically what is happening, or rather just to go through some of the counties here, just a minute, Kiptum. The 8 counties include Kathiani, Kangundo, Mwala, Yatta, Machakos, then there is Mavoko, basically, those are some of the constituencies in this Machakos County. But what has been happening since morning is that what has been noted is that there has been a low voter turnout. And just to mention to you how this low voter turnout has been, is that, for instance, if I take one of the polling stations within Machakos town, is that the registered voters were about 621. That is per polling station. But when we spoke to the presiding officer there, he said only 107 turned out to cast their votes. That translates to about 17% over the 100% of the 621 who were supposed to cast their votes on that polling station. So basically, that is what has been seen across the other polling stations, a very low turnout. We spoke to the leaders and they said that they were hopeful that voters will turn out to come and vote, but that did not happen. Actually, the whole day in all the polling stations, that is what has been happening. But just to take you to what is happening right at the back, is that some of the results from the polling stations are being relayed here for the tallying to get the whole number for the votes in the constituency. So if my cameraman could just pan for us to see some of the results being relayed over there, we can see this is Kavindu, Agnes Kavindu for Wiper Democratic Party is leading with, I think it should be around 51,550, if I could see clearly. Then followed by Abanas Ngengele, that is for UDA. Coming there, but Kavindu is leading with a big margin, as you can see. That is around 347 for Abanas. Then there is also 115, 21, 10 for all the other candidates that have been participating in this exercise for the Machakos County Senatorial by-election. And basically what we can say is that Kavindu for the Wiper Party has taken an early lead. But remember, these are just the results for one constituency. Remember, as I told you, there are 8 constituencies, and the results are supposed to be trickling in as the night, continues. So that we are sure maybe by around midnight we should be having all those results. And of course, we will be giving all these results to our viewer just to update on what exactly is happening on this side. And we understand that the winner will be declared maybe tonight or tomorrow early in the morning and given the certificate. So that is it basically. And actually, just one thing to note is that there was no violence reported. We went through all the polling stations, but there was no violence reported. What was reported is that there were attempts of voter bribery. This is by the UDA party supporters. We spoke to Abanas Ngengele after he cast his vote, and he said he heard about those attempts from his supporters, but he said he is not aware of any money given out to those supporters to go and try to bribe them. But basically, both the candidates of Wiper and UDA, which are the ones that are, it's like a 2-horse race here. They said they're optimistic of taking the win. So, time will tell. Only time will tell here, Kiptum, and we're keeping vigil. Whatever comes out, we'll be updating our viewer. That's basically it. It's back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Kamche Menza, for that report. Of course, those are just the early results that are trickling in. One constituency has so far reported, and Agnes Kavindu, the Wiper Party candidate running for the senatorial seat in Machakos County, is leading. But of course, it's too early to call a win. There are 8 constituencies in total in that particular county, and low voter turnout, of course, as Kamche mentioned, was reported. One polling station that she was at reported voter turnout of about 17%, pretty low in a county that has over 600,000 voters. We now want to take a quick short break. We'll be back with more news, including the latest in business. Stay with us.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii, lazima nishike kwa simu yako, bonyeza *811 *962 hash.
Lazima nishike mapema. Nisiposhika hii simu mapema utakasirika. Unajua mimi nikiwa mtu ya marathon, najua niko na experience kabisa. Niko na experience. If you don't hurry, you will not break the record. Okay, wacha nishike hii simu.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza star 811 star 962 hash, star 811 star 962 hash.
There is a village filled with mysterious creatures who have lived happily for hundreds of years until today.
Hello, Smurfs.
Look, a transport device. Come on. This way.
All together now. My hip.
They're friendly. Do not be fooled by their cuteness. Now it's allowing you now. Gargamel, run! According to my calculations, we lost them.
On the next episode of
Domo jibaba lizima na chekechea.
Bana, nalima somo.
Mwambia mambo ya kutegemea watu mimi nitakuja yaacha kabisa.
Kutegemea watu kivipi? Sasa hicho jeuri ama mkejeli?
Tutayaona matokeo yake.
Basi cheka sana mchana, usiku ulale.
Usiku na kesha kicheka.
Mr. Nzomo, tell me more about yourself.
Mombasani, madam.
Is there anything wrong with Mombasani?
Matches don't come any bigger than the Emirates FA Cup quarterfinals, which will take center stage this weekend as the quest for a new champion continues. Before the All Northwest tie at Goodison Park, where Everton will be looking forward to another thriller against favourites Manchester City at 8:30 p.m. Live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. Now, trade relations between Kenya and Tanzania have for years been a love-hate affair. The relation sinking even low when Tanzania seized chicks imported from Kenya and setting them on fire. Despite the downturn, the two nations have enjoyed cordial relations, with President Uhuru Kenyatta in one occasion jointly opening Holulu border crossing point. Regina Manyara highlights some of the hits and misses in the Kenya-Tanzania link.
6,400 chicks imported from Kenya in 2017 to Tanzania banned. Kenya and Tanzania have had sporadic trade relations despite the two belonging to a common market which allows for free movement of goods, people, labor, services and capital within a 6-member bloc.
The Kenya Coast Guard, in its multi-agency approach, is now working with other stakeholders to investigate the reasons that made the fishermen drift into our waters, weather conditions or any other reason. The Kenya government departments will make efforts to use diplomatic channels to contact our Tanzanian counterparts in order to conclude this humanitarian and distress assistance, which is part of the wider mandate of the Kenya Coast Guard.
Kenya largely imports wheat, textiles and clothing and an assortment of goods from Tanzania. In recent years, traders have increasingly been importing cooking gas through the Tanga and Dar es Salaam ports on grounds of cheaper costs and trucking it through the Namanga border, prompting a temporary ban by the Energy Ministry in April 2017. The ban followed Tanzania slapping a restrictive 75% duty on cigarettes from Kenya, prompting the signing of a temporary win-win trade pact between the two nations on July 2017.
From today, we can announce that the decision that had already been arrived at, that the flow of LPG from Tanzania to Kenya and wheat flour from Tanzania to Kenya will go unhampered, and that the flow of milk and milk products from Kenya to Tanzania will take place unhampered, and we know that this has been effected immediately today.
with the deal easing restrictions on wheat flour and cooking gas imports from Tanzania, which extended a similar gesture on milk and cigarette exports from Kenya. Nairobi and Dar es Salaam agreed to iron out the outstanding trade barriers that had seen Kenyan goods locked out of the Tanzanian market.
We're working to complete this one-stop border post so that we put the arrangement of sitting together with the Tanzanian agencies and actually go to 100% of the setup of the one-stop border post.
Tanzania Food and Drugs Authorities had in the past demanded that Kenyan firms exporting to Tanzania register, relabel and retest goods which have already been certified by authorities such as the Kenya Bureau of Standards and Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service. Other than trade disputes, the wild beast migration route pitted the neighbors against each other, with Tanzania blocking the migratory route in efforts to stop the gnus from accessing the Mara River and crossing over into the Kenyan territory from the Serengeti National Reserve in Tanzania. In 2020, when the world was grappling with COVID-19,
with regard to flights from Tanzania,
somebody is departing from a country where there's intense transmission, community transmission, to a point of arrival where there's less transmission. Of course, that poses a significant risk in terms of epidemiological transmission.
Kenya's attempt to ban entry of flights from Tanzania was met with a hostile reception by the neighboring country, which also reciprocated by blocking KQ from its skies.
Kenya has never banned flights from Tanzania. Kenya has never banned travelers from Tanzania. What we have done is to dictate certain health-related protocols of people arriving from various countries.
The issue was later diplomatically resolved.
Maeneo mengi katika Afrika na katika dunia yatapata shida ya chakula. Ni kwa sababu waliji-lockdown wakati sisi tukiwa tunashughulika kulima. Sasa tutunze vyakula vyetu. Na kama tunaamua kuuza, tuuze kwa bei ya juu sana.
Amid COVID disruptions, a directive by the late President John Pombe Magufuli to increase the prices of food commodities, including tomatoes, accessing the Kenyan market caused a dip in trade between the two countries, albeit short term. But amid all this, the two nations have maintained trade ties with a number of Kenyan homegrown companies, breaking even and shining in Tanzania, from the banking sector to the hotel industry.
Na kwamba sisi ni marafiki, ni ndugu, tuko pamoja. Lengo letu ni kuweka masilahi ya nchi zetu mbele.
One can say without fear or favor ya kwamba we also have shared principles that bind us together.
In December 2018, President Uhuru Kenyatta and the late President John Pombe Magufuli launched a one-stop border post at Namanga, marking a new beginning of cooperation between the two countries. As Tanzanians mourn the demise of their fifth president, that is the late John Pombe Magufuli, Kenya and Tanzania trade relations, sporadic at best, are here to stay. I'm Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, the National Assembly has called on the National Treasury to settle all pending bills within the next 6 months, with all stalled projects and completed and funds provided. A report by the National Assembly Budget and Appropriations Committee showed that despite an overall increment in the total budget of financial year 2020-2021 by 80 billion shillings, several government projects remain stalled while featuring in budgets for years.
In the current proposal under the first supplementary budget estimates for the financial year 2020-2021, the total recurrent expenditure is set to increase by 19 billion shillings, total capital expenditure by 61 billion shillings, and an overall increment in the total budget of 80 billion shillings. However, the newly adopted National Assembly Budget and Appropriations Committee report indicates that the amended estimates allocated funds to what the report termed as non-priority projects amid ballooning pending bills now standing at 150 billion shillings.
A big issue on pending bills. Pending bills are literally everywhere in all ministries. And this is a concern that was raised by members of parliament and members of the committee. And we have clearly said that Treasury should have a proper roadmap on how to address the pending bills.
Is the ballooning in incomplete projects. Honorable Speaker, there are projects, the way the chair budget has alluded to, that began about 38 years ago. There are projects which are 10 years ago, which are 10 years old. We would want, Honorable Speaker, since these projects are now reflecting at the moment, let the Auditor General give us their values, their present estimates, and evaluate all of them.
In a bid to tame the vice, the committee is now recommending that the National Treasury, among others, set aside funds for the settlement of all pending bills and court awards, request the Auditor General to audit ongoing projects, revise output and performance of projects, and new projects should be deferred to next financial year.
The National Treasury must do what is called impact analysis. When you reduce a state department or an agency money, you cut their money, you must assess the impact it will have on those projects.
The first supplementary budget estimates for financial year 2020-2021 forms the basis for the introduction of the first Supplementary Appropriations Act 2020-2021. Alan Aoko, Channel 1 Business.
In June 2019, rivatex officially roared back to life following its reopening with the promise to create a market for cotton and more options for locally made textile. 21 months later, we visit the Eldoret-based miller to journey you through the process of making textile. Here is Steve Miner with the details.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has been synonymous with wearing such stunning and colorful African shirts, taking a break from the usual suits and ties. But have you ever wondered where such African trademark shirts come from? Eldoret-based Rift Valley Textile East African company Rivatex, now under the management of the Moi University, is a towering hub in manufacturing and skills development for both the students and the local community. Since its establishment in 1975, the facility has passed through tribulations that saw it fail to meet its mandate, leading to its closure.
Mashini ilikuwa imekuwa ya zamani sana, ilikuwa imekuwa na miaka 45. Kwa hivyo ilikuwa imekuwa mzee na kupata spare parts ya hiyo machine ilikuwa shida.
However, Rivatex was revamped by the government and officially launched in June 2019, giving it a new lease of life.
We are laying an additional brick to the realization of our commitment to create more opportunities for our people. We move even closer to accelerating the expansion of our national cake through the manufacturing sector as we cement our place of pride in the community of nations.
Tangu His Excellency President na serikali yetu kusaidia sisi kuleta mashini ile mpya. Nataka quality yetu kwanza imekuwa juu na production yetu imekuwa juu.
At the factory, the making of thread for various textiles begins in this section. Here, cotton is cleaned and transformed into thread.
Tuko na uwezo wa kutoa kilo 3,000 kwenda 4,000 ya usi ikitegemea na count ile tuna run. Alafu utapata sana machine pia imefanya sasa tunaweza produce the finest yarn, ile usi nyembamba kabisa ile ya kutengeneza hata shirting material na vitu zile mzuri.
Once ready, the thread is conveyed here at the textile knitting section for the making of fabric. After confirming its quality, the fabric is prepared according to consumer specifications.
Our aim here, it is either to get nguo ya white, ambayo ni bleached, dyed, ama printed.
The textile design department is concerned with various designs on fabrics, such as the unique designs worn by President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Tulipoona hizo prints zetu kwenye shati ya Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, tulifurahi sana kwa sababu hatukujua hiyo kazi ambayo tunafanya hapa kila siku itakuja kupata umaarufu huko nje.
The miller, which was modernized at a cost of 5 billion shillings, has revamped the local economy as well as offered market to over 80,000 cotton farmers.
Kwenye wamaanisha ultramote and rivatex inamaanisha kuwa vijana wenzangu watapata kazi. Kiwanda hiki ina uwezo wa kuandika vijana wengi kazi.
Nataka niseme kwa Rais Kenyatta, asante sana kwa sababu rivatex imekuwa ya maana kwa watu wote. Wamependa watu wote. Sasa sisi kama walemavu hatufukuzwangi.
A year ago, after COVID-19 struck, Rivatex retailored its machines to make face masks. The facility has the capacity to produce over 50,000 face masks a day and has so far produced more than 5 million pieces for use by Kenyans, boosting the fight against the coronavirus.
There is no doubt in my mind that Rivatex rekindles hopes and revives dreams by ushering a new dawn for cotton farmers. Here too lies the possibility of hundreds of thousands of additional jobs for our people.
Reporting for Channel One Business, my name is Steve Maina.
Thank you, Steve Miner, for that report. Now, Cooperative Bank Group plans to pay 5.9 billion shillings in dividends to shareholders mid-next month, despite the lender reporting a 23.8% dip in full-year net profit to 10.9 billion shillings. Group CEO Gideon Muriuki says the dividend payout from retained earnings and shareholder funds, currently at over 90 billion shillings, is a timely support to shareholders during this difficult COVID-19 pandemic period. Coop Bank became the third lender to release its 2020 full-year financial results after Stanbic and KCB Group. Stanbic a fortnight ago reported an 18.6% reduction in net profit to 5.2 billion shillings, while KCB Group on Wednesday posted a 22% dip in profit to 19.6 billion shillings, blamed on bad loans provision as a result of COVID-19 disruptions. Thursday, Cooperative Bank Group announced that it made 10.9 billion shillings in 2020 full-year net profit, which is 23.77% lower than the 14.3 billion shillings the lender made a year earlier. In a statement, Coop Bank Group CEO Gideon Muriuki said the lender increased loan loss provisions by 235% to 8.5 billion shillings to reflect challenges that businesses and households are grappling with from COVID-19 disruptions. He says the bank has restructured 49 billion shillings of customer loans to support customers impacted by the pandemic. In addition, even though its South Sudan subsidiary made 107.8 million shillings in full-year pre-tax profit, this translated to 1.65 billion shillings monetary loss due to hyperinflation occasioned by currency devaluation of the South Sudanese pound. Despite this, Coop Bank grew its total assets by 18% and net loans and advances were up 8% to 286.6 billion shillings. Net interest income increased 16.1% to 36.3 billion shillings, while shareholders' funds grew 14.4% to 90.8 billion shillings. Muriuki says Coop Bank has fortified its digital channels to support uninterrupted access to banking services by customers, with 92% of its services now on alternative banking channels. As was the case last year, Coop Bank has proposed a dividend payout of 1 shilling per share to be paid on 14th of next month. Betty Kiptum, Channel One Business. Public universities are among key defaulters in saving and credit cooperative societies non-remittance, whose balance currently stands at 3.4 billion shillings. Commissioner of Cooperative Development, Geoffrey Njang'ombe, says a multi-agency team has started recovering some of the monies owed to saccos, and soon legal actions will be taken against non-remitting organizations.
The government has so far recovered 3 or 6 million shillings from organizations that failed to remit member deduction to SACCOs. 200 million shillings was recovered from Nairobi University, while 5 million shillings was recovered from Kenyatta University.
Now, the main problem is with the government entities, particularly parastatus, universities, and a few counties.
Commissioner of Cooperative Development Geoffrey Njang'ombe said some employees divert SACCO member deductions to other projects, starving off SACCO's operating and expansion capital.
It is deceitful in the first instance to appear to have paid an employee and you are still keeping the same money you have paid to divert to other uses. It is wrong for a government agency to even apply funds where they are not meant for.
These are the Ministry of Cooperative has initiated talks with county governments to remit member deductions as SACCO hosting their employees are crumbling due to non-remittance.
We have different reasons why these remittances were not coming. The first one is those employees, particularly pertaining those employees in the public service. It was because of late payments of salaries, particularly county government employees.
SACCOs have been asked to restructure their loan book and give borrowers a moratorium to service their loans due to economic disruptions caused by COVID-19. Appearing before the Senate early this month, Sasra had proposed the government to take legal action against top officials in organizations that don't remit members' contributions. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, Kenya Railways says it plans to rehabilitate the Kisumu-Malaba railway line, and as part of its expansion strategy. The Kenya Railways General Business Manager Millie Omido says Kenya Railways wants to open up the western region to more investment opportunities by adding railway services in the region.
The federal government has, however, asked the operators to halt these plans in a press statement by the country's Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. In a bid to ensure amicable resolution of the impasse, a meeting of all stakeholders, including the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, and the mobile network operators and the financial institutions, has been called. Meanwhile, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is supporting the Egyptian economy with a $100 million financing package to Banque de Care for trade financing and on lending to local micro, small and medium-sized companies. Under the facility, EBRD will provide a $50 million loan to help Banque de Care increase the amount of funding it makes available to Egypt's MSMEs, which remain an underserved segment of the real economy. Finally, the Republic of Zimbabwe became the 19th African Union member of state to sign the treaty for the establishment of the African Medicines Agency on 16th March 2021 at the AU Commission in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The signing of the treaty is a step forward in realizing the establishment of the African Medicines Agency out of the desire of the heads of state and government to use our continental institutional, scientific and regulatory resources to improve access to safe, efficient and quality medicines. For Channel 1 News Business, I'm Wangare Washuri.
We apologize for that mix-up of stories there. Now, the Senate Information, Communication and Technology Committee has called for the fast-tracking of implementation of pending technology programs to accelerate digital transformation. This as phase 2 of the government's digital literacy program is set to be rolled out once budgetary delays are sorted out.
The Senate committee met the ICTCS to discuss progress of digital projects implementation in the country. The committee raised concern over delayed implementation, calling for fast-tracking of the projects to bring services to Kenyans.
The Senate Committee on ICT was meeting with various stakeholders, and the Waziri was with us, representing the Ministry of ICT, so as the PS Jerome, too, has been present. It's been a very inclusive and vibrant discussions we've had, and the Waziri has been explaining to us the government policy on ICT and the programs that they've got ongoing now to enhance ICT and to make it more vibrant for Kenyans, and how they're showing us on how ICT is helping Kenyans, especially in these difficult times of COVID.
Committee Chairman Gideon Moi said this will facilitate a smoother transition to the new normal, which includes digital finance, education and governance. ICTCS Joe Musheru clarified that an interministerial team is in the process of making final tranches ahead of the official rollout of the second phase of the DLP program.
During this time of COVID, there's been a lot of growth worldwide on the technology side. People using for video conferencing, being able to use for contact tracing, and many, many different areas. We're now, strongly in the third wave, where we really must be careful. But at the same time, it's a time when we can grow the ICT infrastructure to ensure that we're creating the necessary jobs.
Musheru said that the DLP program is implemented in phases, and that construction of computer laboratories is one of the key factors in actualizing phase 2 of the program. He said the ministry has finished the first phase, and phase 2 are restructuring the competence-based curriculum program to fit the new one.
As you know, the Moi University, Jomo Kenyatta University have been ready. They've already put up infrastructure for assembly and development of this program, so we can be able to pull through. But because of the COVID challenges that we had, both financial and even health and the things we need to manage, I think once we are cleared on what we can do, including finance, then we will roll out.
The program was started by the government in the year 2013 to aid pupils in grade 1 to 3 able to use digital technology and communication tools in learning, with an aim of transforming learning in Kenya into a 21st century education system. Reporting for Channel 1 Business News from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Mondiga.
To our earlier story now, Kenya Railways says it plans to rehabilitate the Kisumu-Malaba railway line as a part of its expansion strategy. The Kenya Railways General Business Manager, Millie Omido, says Kenya Railways wants to open up the western region to more investment opportunities by adding railway services in the region.
From Nairobi to Malaba, we already have a train from Nanyuki, from Nairobi to Nanyuki, which is exemplary, especially for those holiday people who are holiday makers. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya Railway is right on track and doing great things. And we are confident that together with Digital Mara, we are going to win this together.
Now, Kenya is seeking to increase its honey exports to the United Kingdom in the next 5 years. Livestock Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai says demand for Kenyan honey in the European nation has increased. The government will embark on training farmers on phytosanitary requirements and commercial honey production to ensure high quality is exported to international markets to increase farmers' earnings.
80% of Kenya's processed honey is imported from neighboring Tanzania, with local annual production at 20,000 metric tons. 80% of Kenya's honey is produced through traditional hives. The government now seeks to increase honey production and commercialization through modernizing beehives. Livestock Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai says the government will start training farmers on proper honey husbandry to increase production.
Honey, when you harvest honey, there are a lot of other byproducts that you get out of it. You have the honey, propolis, which you can do value addition, and then you start selling them.
This as demand for Kenyan honey in the United Kingdom is increasing.
Kukuza nyuki kwa njia ambayo inayofaa, kisha wapate ile soko ambaye tumeingia kati yetu ya Kenya na Uingereza.
There's a lot of potential for all of us to get involved in apicultural activities. So I'd actually just like to urge the youth and the women to get more involved into modern beekeeping and promote apiculture in each and every county.
Honey producers have been encouraged to familiarize themselves with phytosanitary requirements to access more international markets.
Na tumejiandaa. Nataka sasa tuanze kufunza wakulima wetu, wafugaji wa nyuki, wazingatie zile masharti ambazo zinatakikana, ndio mazao yetu ipate kuuzwa katika nchi hiyo.
The Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization has rolled out training of 500 beekeeping extension officers across the country to help in, among other things, train farmers on accepted chemical residue levels and proper post-harvest handling of honey. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, the global economy is set to grow by 4.7% this year thanks to a stronger than expected recovery in the United States, according to a report by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, revising up its previous forecast of 4.3%.
The global recovery that began in the third quarter of 2020 is expected to continue through 2021, albeit with a good deal of unevenness and predictability, reflecting epidemiological policy and coordination uncertainty. Last year, there was a 3.9% drop in output as the spread of coronavirus sparked lockdowns across the world. Meanwhile, Samsung, the world's biggest computer chip manufacturer, has warned of a serious imbalance in the semiconductor industry as global shortages cause disruption. It also said it might skip the launch of the next Galaxy Note smartphone to streamline its lineup. There are growing fears that market shortages could slow economic recovery after coronavirus. As Taiwanese research firm TrendForce estimated the shutdown could reduce global smartphone production by 5% in the second quarter of this year. Finally, Chinese regulator recently summoned 11 domestic technology companies, including Alibaba Group, for talks on use of deepfake technology on their content platform, stepping up scrutiny of the sector. All the companies did not immediately respond to requests for comments. Terry Njenga, Channel 1 Business.
Let's do the sports now. Kenya today bagged a gold and silver medals in the World Para-Athletics Grand Prix, which kicked off today in Tunis, Tunisia. Wilson B won a gold medal in the 5,000 meters men class at T11, clocking 15 minutes 56.20 seconds, followed by Eric Kiptum in the second spot, while Rogers Kiptum finished in the fourth position. Ecuadorian Castro Reyes Gustavo got a bronze. The event is being used by the para-athletes to qualify for the Tokyo Paralympic Games later in August this year. The three-day event, which has attracted athletes from 60 countries, including 15 champions, ends this Saturday in Tunisia. The magical Kenya Open teed off today at the Par 71 Current Country Club, with low scores coming from some of Europe's top golfers. The tournament, which is being played in a bubble format, has a field of 156 golfers, which will be trimmed to a maximum of 80 after Friday's second round.
Junior amateur golfer Taimur Malik and Royal Nairobi Golf Club's Eric Oko Obura are the best placed Kenyans after the first round of play at the 2021 Magical Kenya Open, after carding a round of 2 under 69 at the Par 71 Current Country Club course. Malik and Obura are joint 48th, while Anthony Juma Omuli is tied 61st on 1 under Par 70.
You have to aim high for you to succeed in life. So me, I want to rate myself being high, and I would like to practice, because we still have a lot of rounds to come. So I'll go to the range and keep on doing what I've been doing.
Frenchman Benjamin Hubbard topped the leaderboard with a round of 7 under par 64 after picking an eagle and 6 birdies after dropping a shot in the opening hole. 7 golfers, including Adrian Meronk of Poland, Sam Horsfield of England, and Finland's Carl Samuja, are tied second on 6 under par 65. Last year, only 2 Kenyans made the cut to day 3, and is the mark to beat this year.
So we are still hoping that we'll get better results. We're going to get better scores from the Kenyans who are still there on the course. But then basically this is just day 1. And I know tomorrow is a D-Day because that's when we'll be making the cut. And we are hoping that we are going to make the cut in big numbers.
The second round will be played on Friday with the top 65 golfers or those tied in that position playing for a share of the €1 million prize fund. The magical Kenya Open is the 6th of 42 events on this year's European Tour calendar.
The Kenya national men and women hockey teams began well their test matches against Uganda, with the men playing to a 1-1 draw while the ladies registered an 11-0 win over Uganda. The teams will play 2 more test matches each this weekend.
The Kenya men and women hockey teams have begun well their test matches against Uganda on the first day of the 3-day tournament. The Kenyan ladies were at their very best, beating Uganda 11-0 in a one-sided encounter played at the Sikh Union Hockey Grounds. It was a dominant display from the Kenyan ladies, who have a lion's share of the under-21 players who are gearing up to compete in international matches in August this year. Uganda are also preparing their teams for international matches, and despite the loss, their coach is content with some players' display in the match.
Our next game on Saturday, we are going to concentrate very much in the middle, because the midfield is where they broke us the most. So these games are there to test us. Since we have been practicing for so long and we have never had this sort of international meets with the national team, we are using these games to gauge ourselves, where we go wrong, what we can do right, and we are going to build this team bit by bit, because our ultimate goal is the African Cup.
We've been working so hard since January, and what's really amazing is we have more than half of the team is the under-21 squad. They're supposed to be playing in August this year, so this is good exposure for them as well. And for the seniors, of course, leading with a lot of experience. So we are happy about the outcome.
The men were also not left behind against Uganda, but could only play to a 1-1 draw. It was a tightly contested encounter, with both sides managing to create a few chances in the entire encounter. The matches will continue on Saturday and Sunday, both teams playing 1 game each.
Now, it is unfortunate the circumstances surrounding the cancellation of our international friendly match against Kenya's Harambee Stars. But all in all, we as a team have to do our best to continue the legacy of our late President John Pombe Magufuli and perform to our very best, even in our times of mourning. These are the words of Tanzania Football Federation Technical Director Oscar Mirambo after the cancellation of the friendly match against Kenya, which was to be played this afternoon at the Nyayo National Stadium following the death of Tanzania President John Pombe Magufuli.
Tanzania and Kenya will have to play the upcoming Africa Cup of Nations qualifier matches without playing a second friendly after the game set for this afternoon was cancelled following the death of Tanzania President John Pombe Magufuli.
Jukumu ambalo tuko nalo kama nchi ni kuhakikisha kwamba tunashikamana, tunakuwa wamoja katika aspekti zote, kwa sababu hicho ndicho ambacho siku zote Mheshimiwa hayati Rais Magufuli amekuwa anakitaka kwa wananchi wake, kuwa wamoja. Mambo mengine yote tunapaswa kujadili kutokea pale, kwa sababu ni jambo ambalo limekuja kwenye wakati ambao hakuna mtu alikuwa anatarajia kwamba linaweza kutokea.
The Tanzanian national team was in a sad state at their hotel in Nairobi, mourning the death of their country's leader, but said they will do their best to continue his legacy, a song he sang day in, day out.
Raisi kama angekuwepo, matamanio yake kwake ni kuona sisi kama nchi tunapiga hatua, sisi kama nchi tunakuwa ni wawakilishi wazuri, so we should leave that legacy ambayo yeye mara zote ndio umekuwa wimbo wa kwake, kwamba ni lazima tuwe tunaweza kufanya vizuri katika activities zote ambazo tunazifanya.
The team is in Nairobi pitching camp ahead of their next 2 AFCON qualifier matches against Equatorial Guinea and Libya later this month.
Fixture ya qualifications is AFCON ni jambo ambalo sisi hatuwezi kuliamua kwa maana ya nchi. Tunaweza tu tukaomba kama tunaweza tukawa tuna kitu ambacho tunafikiri tunapaswa kufanya kwenye wakati ambao tuko nao, and then authority ambayo inasimamia mashindano ya Afrika inakuwa kwenye position ya kufanya decision.
They had already played Kenya on Monday, losing 2-1 at the Nyayo National Stadium. Harambee Stars will also play 2 qualifiers this month against Egypt and Togo.
Now, Manchester United will face AC Milan in the second leg of the Europa League last 16 tonight, hoping to beat the Italian side and qualify for the quarter-finals. United, who are forced to a 1-1 draw at Old Trafford, will have to win or secure a draw of 2 or more goals to qualify.
Manchester United will travel to play AC Milan tonight in the Europa League last 16 tie. On a positive note, Paul Pogba, Donny van de Beek and David De Gea could feature in the second leg, while Edison Cavani, Eric Bailly and Anthony Martial are all ruled out after picking up injuries. AC Milan has a huge boost since Zlatan Ibrahimovic has overcome the thigh injury and could play for Milan against his former club. Smile Banassi is also fit for the host, but captain Alessio Romagnoli, Ante Rebic, David Calabria and Rafael Leao are all doubts. In other matches set to be played tonight, Arsenal will take on Olympiacos, Tottenham face Dynamo Zagreb, Shakhtar Donetsk to take on AS Roma, AS Villarreal will welcome Dynamo Kiev. Young Boys play Ajax while Molde faces Granada, and Rangers will take on Slavia Prague.
Of course, Kenya continues to mourn with Tanzania the loss of their president, who was quite a cheerful person. We have a clip of him just beating the drums there. You want to have a look at this. Enjoying himself there. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Remember, the transition to the inauguration, or rather swearing in, of the Vice President Samia Suluhu. The details of that will be announced tomorrow at 10 a.m. and we shall be bringing you those details. But here we want to leave it at that for Business Insight. My name is Betty Kiptum. Lensa Odingo is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Do have yourself a good night. Here is the weather update.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to Channel 1 Weather Updates. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem. Tonight, there are showers of a few places in Nairobi and counties around the region. The Lake Basin region is experiencing showers accompanied by thunderstorms of a few places, and especially around Lake Victoria. This, as the rest of the country, is covered with partly cloudy conditions. And tomorrow, Friday, once again waking up to rains over the northeastern parts of the country. This will affect Moyale, Wajir, Marsabit and Mandera. The coastal strip will largely be sunny. Also, the Lake Basin region and western sector. The capital, Meru, Nyeri, Kitale, and Machakos will during the morning hours experience cool and cloudy weather conditions. The northwestern parts of the country will mainly experience sunny intervals, but in the afternoon, several places in the Lake Basin region and western sector will experience showers accompanied by thunderstorms, and these will largely affect Kisumu, Kakamega, Kisii, Nyamira, and also Narok and Kitale will be affected. The northeastern parts of the country will experience scattered wet conditions in the afternoon. The coastal strip will continue to experience sunny intervals. And for you in Nairobi, Meru, Nyeri, and Machakos, during the afternoon hours, there is a possibility of showers over a few places. The highest temperatures across the country will be experienced in Lodwar and Garissa at 35 degrees Celsius. The capital will experience highs of 27 degrees Celsius. Let's now cross the borders and have a look at the international forecast. Good night and a blessed day ahead.
Vera Beauty College. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret, Thika, and Meru. Did you know that we are a TVET approved institution? We offer courses in fashion design, interior design in soft furnishing, event decoration, flower arrangement, event planning, hairdressing, barbering and dreadlocks, beauty therapy, makeup, nail technology, spa massages, teaching skills, TOT, solo business management, and many more. Register now and visit our website on www.verabeautycollege.com. You can also call on 0725 923 550 Nairobi branch, 0728 087 689 Eldoret branch, 0722 227428 Thika branch, 0725 000 706 Meru branch. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, a TVET approved institution.
Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
My trust is in you.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
I know it was going to be a great season. The sky was the limit for us, honestly.
But one night in early September, he started experiencing intense stomach pains.
For years, Kim Zukowski and her 12 siblings suffered the abuse of neglect. For them, foraging through garbage for food was a normal way of life.
All you had to do was clean off the ants and bugs and dirt, and that's what we ate.
I'm a Jamaican American.
I was raised as a Christian.
I'm a teacher, a coach.
I am strong, I am intelligent, I am an overcomer.
Hey, I'm gonna bow to your will for the rest of my life. Jesus, only your love covers for me. Only a matter of time.
In 1985, the government formed the National Cereals and Produce Board in a bid to help farmers with drying as well as storage facilities. Of course, over the years, this mandate has been executed with some challenges along the way, and the government has instituted reforms at the board in a bid to respond to the challenges that are facing farmers today. How is this reform agenda coming along? Tonight on Inside Government, we are talking to the chairperson of the National Cereals and Produce Board, Mutea Iringo. Thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us here. For almost 2.5 years now you have been at the board. When you do a SWOT analysis of the National Cereals and Produce Board, what conclusions do you make?
Yeah, thank you very much, O'Brien, for inviting me to shed light on this aspect. I found the board in 2018. I found the board in a very bad state. At this particular time, there was the issue of irregular purchase of strategic food reserves food, and following the purge that ensued, the MD resigned, so the organization had no head to steer the activities. So as a chairman, and with several members of with a newly reconstituted board of directors, we embarked on a reform agenda to steer the organization back on course. We started by recruiting the MD and 4 senior managers to assist in reorganizing the board, and this team has done a lot since, because immediately after they were recruited, they engaged in a competitive process to recruit managers under them who had acted in the board for over 10 years without being confirmed, and from that time we have been on reforms until late last year, when the cabinet also recommended further reforms, which I will enumerate shortly.
Before we actually talk about the reforms that have been instituted at the board, I first of all want to find out, if you study the history of the board, since 1985, it has been rocked by various issues, from fictitious claims, to illegal procurement of goods and all these. How has these impacted the smooth operations of the board and, of course, the implementation of the board's mandate?
Of course, the continued, or rather the persistent corruption and scandals that bedeviled the organization have impacted on the agricultural sector and negatively so on food security. This is one of the issues that we addressed as a matter of priority, and I would like to say that following the reforms that we have instituted, the streamlining of the management, and particularly bringing in professional managers from outside to manage the organization, the last buying of strategic food reserves and the selling are not a single case of corruption controversy.
Immediately when you came on board, there were issues of illegal payment and allocation of national strategic food, to people. Would you confirm whether this was the case? If yes, what steps have you taken to ensure that cases like these do not appear or do not reoccur again at the board?
Yeah. Yes, indeed, there were irregularities which were occasioned, and consequently, the farmer who the government was targeting to benefit was not benefiting. We had a few individuals who were supplying maize worth even half a billion or a few billions, or even half a billion or 500 million shillings. And that was not the target. The target was a small farmer. So we really lost direction. And it's at that point that we came in. We came up with policies to guide the management. And since that time, we've enacted, as the board of directors, we have come up with about 18 policies covering various areas, particularly financial, the leasing policy, so that the procedures, the standard operating procedures are followed strictly to ensure efficient and effective management of the organization. Mm-hmm. From that time, things have changed, and we've been able to clear all the debts that we owe the various suppliers, and actually the confidence is back on the part of the staff and even the people, the stakeholders that we serve.
You see, when the board was being formed back in 1985, the desire was, first of all, to help farmers with drying and storage facilities. Of course, over the years, because of corruption and persistent wrangles at the board, other private players, have come on board, to play the role that NCPB was set up. And so the question that is permeating through many quarters today is this: do we still need to have NCPB in this country?
Indeed, yes. NCPB plays a very critical role in food security, right from the planting. From the time the farmer is planting, NCPB currently has positioned itself to ensure that the farmer is assisted to produce as much and gain from the proceeds of the production. First, we have availed fertilizers during the planting season, subsidized fertilizers, and of course, shortly we'll be participating in the e-voucher system, because the government will not be in the business of buying and then distributing to farmers. They will give the identified vulnerable farmers vouchers where they can go to any shop. They pay 60%, and the shopkeeper or the wholesaler claims the 40% from government. This is the so-called e-voucher system that is about to take root. Mm-hmm. We, apart from the fertilizers, we also have Afrasif that is applied to crops, particularly maize, to avoid the challenge of aflatoxin, to ensure food safety. In addition, we offer drying services, because when farmers are harvesting while there are rains, they get major challenges and they are not able to dry properly. Hence, the problem of aflatoxin.
The former president, Mwai Kibaki, directed the Ministry of Agriculture to avail funds to the National Cereals and Produce Board so that it could increase its presence and its footprint in many parts of the country. Back then, there was such a serious debilitating drought that the country was going through, and people were suffering. Have we managed to do this yet, and why has it taken us all this long before we can start, before NCPB can start, establishing its network in many parts of the country?
Of course, we have an elaborate infrastructure in all the 47 counties. We have about 110 depots, but currently we have gone out of our way to corroborate we create partnerships with the county governments so that we can establish collection centers deeper in the rural areas, so that the farmer is able to access the facilities much more easily. Yeah.
So going forward, what do you plan to do as a board to ensure, number one, your services have been taken closer to the people who need these, and these are farmers, and number two, to ensure that the services that you offer are competitive enough for farmers to access them?
Yeah, what we've done currently, of course, this will serve the trading division. There are two divisions in the board, following the implementation of the reforms that were recommended last year by government. The trading division will do normal trading activities for commercial purposes. Yeah, because NCPB is not supported by the Treasury in terms of funding. We generate our own funds to run our activities.
One of the other challenges that you have been facing as a board is that your aging infrastructure. How do you plan to ensure that you revitalize the infrastructure that exists? Of course, this will come at a significant cost.
Yeah, it is true that the infrastructure is old. We are doing it piecemeal, but we are engaging government to provide funding. We have estimated about 1.8 billion to do to refurbish all the infrastructure. Some as old as 50 years since independence, and they require major, some actually require total replacement as refurbishment. The money that we expect to do this is, of course, tied up in debts which are owed, which are owed by government agencies, the ministry, the Ministry of Agriculture, of course, through the food subsidy. Yeah, we also have the Ministry of Devolution, which owes us quite a bit of money, and a few parastatals like AFC, AFA, which was quite a bit. Plans are underway. We have made arrangements through the ministry, the cabinet secretary and the principal secretary are pursuing this matter. We want to have a tripartite meeting with the ministry, Serious Board, Treasury, and of course KCB on the KCB loan. We have a loan that is really hampering our operations. We are not able to access credit facilities to do viable commercial trading, because this loan, which was taken several years back, about 4 billion, was not repaid, and now has risen to about 7 billion.
Yeah, because of interest.
Yeah, the interest currently is 3 million per day, 110 million per month, and this is really unsustainable.
We'll discuss the issue of the KCB loan, and of course, the jury is still out on the merits and demerits of that loan. Questions have been thrown around as to where the NCPB really needed that loan. But I'll be coming back to that. But tell me this, government institutions and government agencies, as well as ministries, they owe NCPB quite a significant amount of money. At the same time, you also owe farmers, money that you have not paid them. How much is owed to you as debt vis-a-vis how much do you owe to farmers?
I think recently in December, around December last year, through the intervention of the head of civil service and our cabinet secretary, we were able to access funds, and actually we paid all the debts that we owed to farmers, except about 539 million that has not been cleared by the EACC. So on that aspect, we have paid them everything, unlike in the past, where we owed the transporters, farmers a lot of money. To that extent, we are clean on the external debtors.
So apart from the 536.
So what we need critically is money to facilitate us to be able to move. We are owed
how much money is owed to you?
Over 15 billion.
Over 15 billion shillings.
Yeah, yes.
Who owes you the most?
Of course, this 15 billion includes the 7 billion that is owed to KCB. Yeah, so we consider that as part of our debt because we used our properties, NCPB properties, as collateral security, as collateral. Yeah, the ministry owes us several billions in terms of unfunded subsidy. Subsidy is, of course, when we imported maize, the maize was say 3,000 shillings, and we ended up selling it at 2,000 because the aim, of course, is to make sure the food in the country, the food prices are kept low.
Is there a clear path as to how you're going to deal with these loan that has really made the institution credit unworthy?
We cannot deal with this matter at the level of NCPB alone. So we've asked our cabinet secretary to liaise with his counterpart in Treasury, so that we meet and see how best to resolve. Of course, much of the solution lies in Treasury and the ministry. Yes.
How, as the chairman of the board, what recommendations have you made to the National Treasury as well as to the Ministry of Agriculture to help deal with these issue of KCB loan?
Of course, through the ministry, they can factor funding through the budget to be able to pay off the loan, and of course, by engaging the bank, it would be possible to consider reduction of the interest rate that has accrued, amounting to over 3 billion. Yeah, I think that is what we are doing. Yeah.
You are talking about NCPB paying about 3 million shillings on a daily basis, on that loan.
Yes.
Which translates to about 270 million shillings per month. I mean 210.
110 million per month.
Per month.
Yeah.
How is this impacting on your financial operations?
Yeah, of course it is. It is, as I pointed out, is one of the biggest challenges because we are not able to get bank guarantees. You have to, whatever you're operating, you have to use cash, which is not possible. So really, we are not able to operate at optimum as expected to be able to fulfill the Big Four agenda.
What functions of the board have been severely impacted by that loan?
Particularly the commercial trading. You need a lot of money to be able to do that. And recently, the government gave us release some funding, which we utilize to clear all the debtors, the external debtors, transporters, the farmers, and all that. But we really need a substantial amount to be able to do market operations. We are in the business of buying not the traditional maize, as people know. We buy maize, beans, green grams. Yeah, we are diversifying.
You have extended your portfolio.
Passes, and this way, we are able to assist farmers in marketing their produce, and then we are able to later market to. We can even export, and of course utilize the internal market, which is not satisfied. So we are badly, in fact, impacted on the commercial trading division. Yeah.
Let's for a moment imagine an NCPB that is debt free. The KCB loan has been cleared. The 536 million shillings owed to people, even though the issue is being contested, has been cleared, and you have 1.8 billion shillings from the National Treasury, to modernize your systems and infrastructure. How different would NCPB be?
Really, it will be completely a different organization in the manner in which it serves the customers, especially the farmer. Of course, without accumulating debts. When you deliver your produce, you are paid. The machines will also be very efficient, the drying facility, the dryers, the conveyor belts. So there will be no queues in the in the setting when we are buying the produce. And definitely the farmer would definitely boost the production and securing the country in terms of food.
If we ban the imports of maize from Tanzania and Uganda, do we have enough stocks in our granaries, to support the consumption demand?
Well, I think the concern here is not really how much we get into the country, but the safety of the food that gets into the country. This is under the purview, this is the work of the KEPS and other related agencies who should monitor that right at the border. But I must say that really we must be concerned about the food that we consume. And for that reason, we at our level, in Serious Board, we have procured sufficient machines to test aflatoxin for the maize that we buy to ensure that it is safe. We have also established labs in several depots across the country to monitor, to ensure that the food is safe. How much we import is not as important as how safe is the imports.
But do we have enough storage capacities and drying capacity in this country? If our farmers, or majority of our farmers, want to say, okay, from now going forward, we'll be taking our maize to ncpb, do you have the capacity to handle this?
We have the capacity. We have the capacity, and of course, we are introducing the warehouse receipting system, a system where the farmer brings his crops to a certified store. These are highly modernized stores which are certified by AFA to store food. And of course, once the food is taken in at the warehouse, under the warehouse receipting system, you are given a receipt which you can use as collateral. And of course, you are able to sell the food when the prices go up.
And there has also been questions about the slow uptake of the WSR system. I know there's a committee that is looking into this issue and how to fasten the process. How are you engaging farmers to ensure that they embrace the new mode of doing business?
Of course, there's a bit of conservatism because the idea is new. AFA has not completed the process of certifying the stores, and I think we are at the inception stage. And I'm sure with the continued sensitization, the uptake will be greater the next season.
Have you gone into trials have you put the system in trial with probably maybe a section of farmers, and what is it telling you, and what are the bottlenecks?
We in a few of our stores, I think we are ready, and we are ready to take in the products. But you see, this exercise is timed, or rather depends on when the farmers are harvesting. That is when the need will arise. So we'll be testing as the farmers harvest in the next season.
Let's talk about also the Food Balance Committee. Is it in place yet?
The Food Balance Sheet Committee, yes, it has been established. It's a multi-sectoral committee that will be monitoring the food situation in the country. If the food stocks are going down, they will advise the government when to import and how much to import. And of course, they will also be looking at how much we need to keep as a strategic food reserve.
And because NCPB, is a player in that committee, is also a strategic player, in the food situation in this country. When the committee looks at the food situation in the country, what report are they getting?
You are talking of the current situation?
Yes.
Of course, there are projections. We did not do very well this time because of the locust, and then there was crop failure following a deficiency in rains in parts of this country, and I'm sure the government is watching and of course monitoring the situation to see at what point to intervene in terms of imports. This will also depend on how much we get from the current harvest, although there are projections. Yeah.
And last year, you know, we saw the president directing NCPB to purchase maize from farmers at a minimum price of 2,500.
Indeed.
How have farmers responded to these, and have you seen a major increase in terms of stock?
Oh, yeah, of course. At the time that the directive was issued, farmers were getting about 2,200 from merchants out there. And when we came in and started buying at 2,500, the merchants were forced to, and millers were forced to increase the price to about 2,700 or thereabouts. So whenever we intervene in the market, we stabilize the prices, and of course, the farmer ends up benefiting more. The response has been very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How much maize have you, or food have you managed to buy since?
So far, we have bought over 500,000 bags. We are going to 600,000, and we are still continuing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do we have an idea of how many more bags are still being withheld by farmers?
Of course, when we go out there to buy, our aim is not to completely buy everything out there. We would like quite a bit to remain with the farmers because they need it for day-to-day operations. So ours is only to intervene at a strategic level to ensure that there isn't too much out there with the farmers, and of course, especially when they require the outlet to market their produce.
What reforms are you undertaking at the board? Number one, to restore the confidence of your client, and number two, to ensure that you play your mandate effectively.
Oh yeah. Currently, we are able to pay the farmers within 2 days, yeah? And that alone speaks a lot, and of course wins the farmers' confidence. In addition, we have established hubs in our depots where farmers are able to access agricultural inputs very easily. In these hubs, we have partnered with companies that produce fertilizers, seeds, and other cooperant factors of production to avail the items in these hubs, so that the farmer is able to access them easily. We've signed an agency agreement. We just get a small commission because the aim is really to avail these services to the farmer. That way, we've been able to adhere our sales, or rather our services to the farmers, and we are realizing a lot of support. We are also engaging them continuously during a few days, and also outreach programs to ensure that we understand their problem and they also understand us and see how best to assist each other.
Motea Iringo, thank you very much for finding time to be with us this evening.
My pleasure, and I look forward to coming back to answer whatever issues that
Very well. Well, Motea Iringo is the chairperson of the National Cereals and Produce Board, joining us tonight to discuss more about the reforms being undertaken at the board as well as the future of the food security in this country. You have heard it from him. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you for your time. We'll see you again on Thursday right here on KBC Channel 1. Have a good night.
na umbea, yani stories zinazo trend kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
See baby, now we are two in one. We are two in one.
Interview kali za wasanii wapendao.
Mguu pande panda milima. Aoye izungushie hapo ma. Kama una
ndani ya March of Life kupitia KBC Channel 1 na Pwani FM.
Kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka mida ya 5 kamili asubuhi. Ukiwa nami ni Ken 1GB.
Mimi ni Marco. Keep it locked.
Malewa.
Next on.
Show of good faith.
Inaonekana kama ni Girinale.
Mama Eunice won't have to be washing clothes for Tiffany anymore.
I'm on your side, okay?
How are you on my side, really?
I know, I was going to tell you eventually.
What does Nancy have on you?
You should not listen to Nancy here. Did she also tell you that she was trying to bribe Kama so that he'd be spying on you?
Kama, you kweli? No, Paul, I really am not in the mood to see anyone.
Ebu toka haraka sana. Toka. Ukijaribu kupita hapa.
Nini itafanyika?
Next on.
I just wanna be part of your symphony. We're holding tight and not let go.
You are right on time for Big Minds Show.
My name is Megan Nasambu, and my interests are singing, modeling, dancing, and dealing with the environment.
You use your talents well and to make the society a better place.
I want to be a model and a doctor.
We're going to read a book titled The Foolish Friend.
I'm going to teach you how to make a soap.
Matches don't come any bigger than the Emirates FA Cup quarterfinals, which will take center stage this weekend as the quest for a new champion continues. Before the All Northwest tie at Goodison Park, where Everton will be looking forward to another thriller against favourites Manchester City at 8:30 p.m. Live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Now, your ministry reaches more people than the evening news, and I need you to get up there and announce that you fully support this bill.
I cannot water down the gospel to advance anybody's political agenda.
He's not on board.
Mr. Luther, do you mind if we get a picture with my daughter?
Big smile. Excellent.
The girl is dead, John. They're saying that you killed her. I didn't kill anybody. They're watching for you. I didn't know where else to go.
You're going to be charged with first-degree murder.
I need your help.
Your husband is a fugitive.
He is coming home to this family.
I have a dream to unite the traditions of faith with one voice. Sometimes in a war, there's collateral damage for the greater good.
Senior Chinese diplomats hold two-day dialogue with U.S. officials in Alaska. Diplomats and defense chiefs from the U.S. and South Korea meet in Seoul. And the WHO says benefits of the AstraZeneca vaccine outweigh risks. Hello and welcome. You're watching Africa Live. We're coming to you live from Nairobi. I'm Hannah Vivier. And here for the latest in business is Rama.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Here's what's coming up in the course of the hour. Close to 50,000 businesses in South Africa's tourism sector are on the verge of collapse. And Egyptian authorities plan to increase spending in the next fiscal year to boost household incomes amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll have the details on those stories and plenty more coming your way in the course of the hour. For now, let's start with the latest in current affairs with Hannah.
Thank you, Rama.
We begin in Alaska, where senior diplomats from China and the United States will be holding their first face-to-face talks since President Joe Biden took office. Beijing's delegation includes Yang Jiechi, Politburo member of the Communist Party of China. Joining him is Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Representatives for the U.S. include Secretary of State Antony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. This is considered a high-stakes meeting between the two countries. The two-day dialogue is likely to revolve around the pandemic, climate, and trade. It's also expected to tackle issues concerning Hong Kong, Xinjiang, and Taiwan. Nathan King has more from Anchorage in Alaska.
In terms of expectations, there'll be 2 sessions of talks on Thursday. Starting early in the afternoon, there'll be a dinner break. Whether they have dinner together will be a sign, perhaps, of progress as well. And then there'll be an evening session and then a morning session on Friday as well. We are expecting a full and frank discussion, as they say in diplomatic circles. As you know, the US has upped rhetoric and reality over the last few days, leading up to this first meeting of the Biden administration with top Chinese officials, including widening potential sanctions against Chinese and Hong Kong officials related to the Hong Kong Autonomy Act, which was passed on the Trump administration in Congress. They say they're going to talk about human rights, and of course China has hit back. There was a very powerful interview which we've been playing that you've seen from China's ambassador to the US, Shui Qiankai, and he basically says that if the US criticizes things that belong to China, China's territorial integrity, then the talks will reach a dead end, and that China will not back down. It will not bend just for some sort of atmosphere coming out of the talks. Now, hopefully, a lot of this is just rhetoric, especially from Washington, going into these talks.
Beijing says no compromise on sovereignty or core interests. Meanwhile, the Chinese Foreign Ministry says a positive outcome depends on the efforts of both sides.
Attempting to engage in microphone diplomacy and ganging up to put pressure on China are a waste of effort. China hopes that through this dialogue, it can fully communicate with the U.S. to promote healthy and stable development of bilateral relations. But we don't expect a single conversation to solve all our problems. The U.S. should recognize China's determination to firmly defend its sovereignty, security, and interests.
Well, China and the U.S. have disagreements on multiple issues, but they're both willing to collaborate on issues of common interest, such as fighting the pandemic and climate change. We discussed that with Dr. Teng Jiangqing, Director of American Studies Department at the China Institute of International Studies.
Areas for the two countries to cooperate in the future, for example, climate change, non-proliferation, and the fighting against the pandemic. Actually, this is one side of the coin of Biden's foreign policy toward China, because on one side, the U.S. administration, Biden's administration would like to continue the so-called strategic competition with China. This is a long way to go for the United States. And on the other side, the U.S. side would like to find some, areas to cooperate with China, as Secretary of State Blinken mentioned early this month. There are 3 layers. On one layer, on top layer is the competition. On the other layer is the collaborative, and on the third layer is adversarial, because the relationship between the two countries have been changed greatly in recent years. Actually, this is a result of the balance of power. The traditional balance of power between the two countries has been changed, and actually we are establishing new balance of power. So the two sides should, sit down to have a dialogue to deal with the ups and downs during the process of rebalancing. So this is actually a very important task for China and for the United States to maintain a stable relationship between the two sides.
Top diplomats and defense chiefs of the U.S. and South Korea met in Seoul during the 2+2 meeting. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that Washington was weighing up pressure and diplomatic options when it comes to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's nuclear program, and would outline a new policy towards Pyongyang in the coming weeks. Blinken and U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin are in Asia as part of the Biden administration's attempts to shore up alliances in the region and curtail China's influence. Jack Barton has more from Seoul.
The DPRK's nuclear warhead and ballistic missile programs, unsurprisingly, led the agenda in Seoul for the US and South Korea's top foreign policy and defense officials.
We are committed to the denuclearization of North Korea, reducing the broader threat the DPRK poses to the United States and our allies.
US officials say a review of DPRK policy is currently underway and that a new and different approach will be announced within weeks. The meeting coincided with a statement from a senior DPRK foreign ministry official that Washington's recent attempts at contact were a cheap trick. It also followed a warning earlier this week by Kim Jong-un's sister that the US would not be able to rest at night if it continued, in her words, to make a stink.
We see it shows that North Korea is closely keeping an eye on South Korea-U.S. high-level talks, while the United States is reviewing policy against the North.
Blinken and Austin are in South Korea in a bid to fortify Washington's alliances in Asia, marking the first overseas trip by top-level members of President Joe Biden's administration. Blinken heavily criticized China going into the 2+2 meeting, but there was no mention of China in the final statement by South Korea, which is keen to maintain good relations with Washington and Beijing. Seoul made its position clear from the start on the quad grouping of the US, Japan, India and Australia.
South Korean government officially have said that if the quad is excluding a specific country, which is China, then South Korea is not interested in joining them.
The high-level talks were followed by an informal chat with President Moon Jae-in. Blinken's next meeting is with senior Chinese officials in Alaska. Jack Barton, CGTN, Seoul.
A Chinese construction machinery manufacturing company, XCMG, is making inroads into Africa by contributing to the development of infrastructure while also training locals. In recent years, the company has sold heavy machinery and continues to provide service and spare parts for the machines used in infrastructure development projects on the continent. Wilkes Anyawa tells us more.
Bit by painstaking bit, Nairobi's expressway is taking shape. Construction workers working round the clock are making sure of this, and mingled with the sights and sounds of the busy Mombasa Road are the sounds from the heavy machinery moving the project forward. Many of these machines come from the XCMG company, a heavy machinery manufacturing company that was founded in 1943 in China. In 2017, XCMG initiated an upgraded plan for the overseas service and spare parts network, establishing independent service and spare parts centers to increase support for dealers. A year later, it opened its first direct regional spare parts center in Nairobi to serve businesses in East Africa.
We think, Kenya is a very potential good market. It's developing very fast. We are very proud to be one of the, partner in the process of the Kenya's development.
The company has also set up bases in Guinea, Nigeria, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is from such investments that the company's involvement in projects such as Nairobi's groundbreaking expressway has arisen.
We can see a very great potential for China and Africa countries. It's very the mutual complementary, growth together. We have the experience of construction technology and high-end construction equipment. and also you need a lot of infrastructure, and we can mutually, benefit. We are very proud of the Africa and the China friendship and cooperation.
This is one example of the ways in which China-Africa cooperation is yielding benefits for both sides. In this case, it has also led to a transfer of skills and knowledge.
There are a lot of people who are learning a lot, especially the manual works. There are some who came here without some experience, and they're being taught. There are some machines which are also, I think they're new in Kenya as well, and the training they give them here, I think in future they'll be the ones who will be running all those stuff. For me personally, I think I'm sharpening more of my language.
There are more than 200,000 pieces of XCMG equipment in use outside China at present. Kenya alone has over 2,000 XCMG machines, each of these playing a part in building Africa's infrastructure. Wilkisanyabwa, CGTN, Nairobi.
Let's go to Zimbabwe now, where the government there is expecting a bumper maize harvest, which could be 3 times higher than the amount produced during the drought-hit 2019-2020 season. TDTN's Farai Mokutua reports on what this means for the country, which has been battling food insecurity.
Davidson Gambinga began planting his maize crop in November 2020, hoping that forecasts of an above-average rainy season would materialize. They did. And today, he's expecting to reap over 30 tons, his biggest harvest in years.
Mwezi inonetsa mvura January to February, but ndo mwezi yakanayisa mvura manje. Amona ndo yakabva yatoita season yacho, especially ku GMP. Ichatadza kutotora chibage chacho because chakawandisa.
Total national output is estimated to reach at least 2.5 million metric tons. Government plans to raise 65 billion Zimbabwe dollars, that's about 783 million US, to buy up 1.8 million tons of maize. That will be enough to meet annual consumption, and what's left over could be stored in the National Grain Reserve.
This season is very important because it then guarantees that we're going to have food for the coming 12 months, but we are also going to have food in the event of a drought. So the economy, what it means to the economy is that normally when we have a deficit, we will have to import. And importing means foreign currency, use of foreign currency reserves. And that's a drain on the fiscus. But this is an import substitution.
The good harvest will also lower the number of people requiring food and humanitarian aid, currently estimated to be over 5 million by the United Nations World Food Programme.
Given that we have this situation where we're looking at the good harvest and our future food assistance during the lean season will be in all likelihood much lower, it will open up the opportunity for WFP and many other agencies to continue refocusing their investments towards resilience building, towards livelihoods, to really help bolster that capacity of those communities and households to better live with shocks going forward.
Zimbabwe has predicted strong economic growth of 7.4% in 2021, mainly on the back of the rebound of the mainstay agriculture sector. Farai Mokutua, CGTN, Mazoe, Zimbabwe.
Time for us to take a short break and return. More news, including the WHO says AstraZeneca vaccine's benefits outweigh risks. And the first consignment of the AstraZeneca vaccine arrives in Somalia.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis,
Syria,
Juba, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. You're watching Africa Live. Well, the World Health Organization says the benefits of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine far outweigh its risks. It is therefore recommended that inoculations using that vaccine continue. The WHO listed the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine for emergency use last month. It is believed this will increase access to what is said to be a relatively inexpensive shot to the developing world. Here's CDTN's Wanja Mugai with more.
More than a dozen European countries have suspended the use of AstraZeneca vaccine due to safety concerns. The European Medicines Agency says it is investigating reports of 30 cases of unusual blood disorders out of the 5 million recipients of the AstraZeneca vaccine. The World Health Organization has, however, assured people that the vaccine's benefits outweigh its risks.
And some countries have and a precautionary approach, have paused the use of AstraZeneca. But the group of SAGE, the group of WHO, and the group of the many different groups have been looking at the studies, and this is a normal practice. Whenever there is a signal of something or a potential signal, it doesn't mean that there's an association, but they have to look and they have to do a proper study to evaluate whether or not it's associated with the use of the vaccine. The use of the vaccine far outweighs the risks. We know that vaccines that are out there are safe and effective, and it is really important that individuals get vaccinated when it's your turn, when you are offered.
Vaccines have saved millions of lives, but vaccines are biologic products, and we have to use them carefully and safely, and as Maria said, these products have been proven to be safe. But when you start to use vaccines at large scale, problems that were potentially very rare can crop up, and that's why we have this post-distribution enhanced surveillance. And in fact, we've been watching very carefully for anything that may go wrong. So let's wait and let's see. We would advise people to keep taking the vaccines. Right now, this virus has a much bigger chance of doing you a lot of harm than the very, very potentially tiny risks associated with this vaccine.
The global health body has recommended that countries around the world continue inoculations using the AstraZeneca vaccine.
And I think we need to be very careful that we don't end up overreacting and damaging the product in people's minds until we're absolutely sure that there actually is a problem. And right now, that is not certain. Let's wait for the data to be looked at before we make any conclusions.
The European Union regulator is set to release its findings on the AstraZeneca vaccine on March 18th. Its head, Emma Cook, says she sees no reason to change its recommendation on AstraZeneca, one of 4 vaccines that it has approved for use in the European region. Wanja Mungai, CGTN.
The AU says African countries that have acquired the AstraZeneca vaccine should continue to use them to curb COVID-19. Echoing the views of the WHO, Dr. John Nkirasong, who is the director of the Africa CDC, told a news conference that the vaccine's benefits outweigh the risks. The AU's recommendation comes while more than a dozen European countries have suspended the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine, this amid concerns over the risk of blood clots. The Africa CDC is urging African countries using AstraZeneca doses to monitor and report any adverse reactions. Many African countries have continued administering the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine despite several European countries suspending its rollout. As mentioned earlier, there have been concerns raised that the vaccine may have caused blood clots in some people who had received it. While European countries are opting for other vaccine types, Africa is still relying heavily on the Oxford AstraZeneca inoculation. CDTN's Enoch Sikolia reports.
African countries started to receive vaccines under the UN-backed COVAX program in February, and many have signed up to join the program. The WHO-supported initiative seeks to distribute an initial 500,000 doses of the vaccines worldwide. By the end of 2021, Africa plans to have vaccinated 20% of its population through the COVAX program. Even though the initiative has delivered AstraZeneca and Pfizer vaccines to Africa, the continent seems to favor vaccines developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University. Professor Walter Jaoko, the director of Kenya Vaccine Initiative, says there are several factors